I never imagined those words would come from her mouth. Not after 10 years of friendship. Not after late-night laughs, shared secrets, broken relationships, and the silent rule we never spoke aloud, that whatever we were, we would never cross that line. Yet there she stood in my doorway at midnight, rain clinging to her hair, eyes red not from the cold, but from something breaking inside her. And she whispered, "Just one night. Please." My heart slammed like it wanted to escape my chest. Every memory rushed back at once. The first day we met. The way she defended me when no one else did. How she knew my fears without me saying a word. I tried to laugh it off, to make a joke, because jokes had always been my shield, but my voice failed me. She stepped inside without waiting for an answer, and the room suddenly felt smaller, heavier, like the air itself was watching us. She said she was tired of pretending she didn't feel this, tired of going home alone while I was always there, close but unreachable. I wanted to tell her we were making a mistake, that best friends don't survive nights like this, but my mouth betrayed me. Silence spoke louder than refusal. That night wasn't wild or dramatic. It was slow, careful, almost painful, as if both of us were afraid the truth might shatter if we moved too fast. And when morning came, it didn't bring clarity. It brought fear. She dressed quietly, avoiding my eyes, and before leaving, she said something that stayed with me like a scar. I didn't ask for forever, but I think I just broke us. If you've ever loved someone in the wrong way at the wrong time, you know that feeling, and if this story is touching something inside you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what happened next changed everything. Days passed, then weeks, and the silence between us grew louder than any argument we'd ever had. My phone stayed still, mocking me. I replayed that night over and over, not because of what happened, but because of what we'd lost afterward. When she finally called, her voice sounded older, like life had aged her and fast forward. She said she couldn't pretend anymore. Either we faced what happened, or we walked away completely. We met at the same cafe where we once planned impossible futures for fun. This time, there was no laughter. She admitted she'd asked for one night because she was scared to ask for more. Scared I'd reject her and ruin everything. And I confessed the truth I'd hidden for years, that I'd loved her too, but fear had kept me quiet. We sat there realizing the tragedy wasn't the night itself, but all the years we wasted protecting a friendship while our hearts were already breaking. Some stories end with a kiss, others with goodbye. Hers ended with a choice. We decided not to erase the past, but to stop running from it. Whether we became something more or went our separate ways, we agreed on one thing. That night wasn't a mistake. Silence was. And maybe the real lesson isn't about crossing lines, but about being brave enough to admit what you feel before time decides for you. If this story made you feel something, regret, hope, love, subscribe to the channel. Because every story here is a reminder that life doesn't wait, and neither should your heart. We sat there longer than either of us planned, the coffee growing cold between our hands, neither of us brave enough to be the first to stand up and end the moment. Outside, life moved on. Cars passed, people laughed, but inside that small cafe, time felt frozen, as if the universe was waiting to hear what we'd decide. She finally looked at me, really looked at me, and for the first time since that night, I didn't see fear in her eyes. I saw honesty. She said she wasn't asking me to promise forever, not anymore. She just wanted truth, no more half feelings, no more pretending we were just friends when our hearts had been lying for years. I told her how every relationship I'd ever had failed because I compared them to her, how I'd sabotaged happiness just to keep her close without risking rejection. Saying it out loud hurt more than I expected, but it also felt like breathing after being underwater too long. We walked out together, unsure of what we were now, but certain of one thing: we couldn't go back to who we were before. The days that followed weren't easy. There were awkward silences, sudden laughter, moments where we almost stepped back out of fear, but this time we didn't run. We talked about boundaries, about expectations, about the possibility that loving each other might be the most terrifying and most honest thing we'd ever do. And slowly, without forcing it, trust began to rebuild. not as best friends hiding feelings, but as two people choosing courage over comfort. Love doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes quietly, after mistakes, after tears, after one night that forces the truth into the open. And if this story feels real to you, if it reminds you of someone you were afraid to love, subscribe to the channel, because the next story might be the one that finally gives you the courage to speak. But courage doesn't erase fear overnight. As days turned into weeks, reality began knocking harder than emotion. Friends noticed the change before we said anything. Questions followed. Rumors, too. Every whisper felt like a test. Were we strong enough to face the world when we had barely figured ourselves out? One evening, she confessed something that shook me. She was afraid that if this failed, she wouldn't just lose a lover, she'd lose the one person who had always felt like home. That night, we argued for the first time, not as friends, but as something more. It wasn't loud. It was painful, because love hurts differently when it's real. I walked away angry, telling myself maybe we should have kept that one night as a secret memory. But halfway down the street, I realized the truth. I wasn't scared of losing her anymore. I was scared of losing myself if I didn't fight for what we'd finally admitted. I turned back. She was still standing there, eyes wet, like she hadn't moved since I left. I didn't promise perfection. I didn't promise forever. I promised effort, honesty, choosing her even when it was hard. Sometimes love doesn't need grand words, just the decision to stay. And that's when I understood that one night didn't ruin our friendship. It exposed the love hiding beneath it all along. If you've ever stood at the edge of a life-changing choice, unsure whether to step forward or turn back, subscribe to the channel, because the stories here are for those brave enough to feel.